What is up, and good morning. I want to discuss something I don't see discussed a lot when it comes to preparedness videos and stuff like that. And it's a touchy subject, and some of the powers that be don't like you talking about it, but it's a real thing. It's a real issue that I feel that people really need to take into consideration, especially with times being what they are, with the uncertainty of availability and pricing and all this and that. So, and it's kind of funny because I can remember you gotta love it whenever your phone decides that you've used too much memory. Goodbye. Where were we? I actually don't know. I had to sit there and delete a whole bunch of old stuff and go through and figure out what was going on. Actually don't know where we were. Hold, please. Yes, I can remember my grandparents and my parents complaining about similar items back in the day. Pricing, availability, so on, so forth. All of that taken into consideration. A lot of people have some sort of vice, what have you. I'm talking about nicotine and caffeine. In a situation where going to the store is not an option. Maybe the store can get it, or maybe you can get to the store, but the store can't get the products. Supply chains, money, whatever. If you are someone who partakes in nicotine and or caffeine, that could be a problem. If something was to happen, and I'm not talking the big one here. Let's reel our minds back to normal stuff that could, yes, the big one could happen. It could happen right this second, but what I'm saying is stuff that's more likely to happen on any given day. If something was to happen where you couldn't get to the store or the store couldn't get the product, where would you be sitting in that time? It's going to be really easy for a whole lot of people to say, that's really easy. Just quit using that stuff and then you don't have to worry about it. I understand and agree to a point. I understand, but the agreeing part is a double-edged sword, because as an adult person, you are allowed to do what you want to do as so long as it is legal for you to do so. If you want to drink caffeine, that is your right. If you want to smoke a cigarette, have a dip, have a vape, that is also your right. If you like to partake in some alcohol or other means of numbing the brain, that is also within your right. So, what happens when your ability to exercise that right is diminished because you no longer have the means of getting the items? Some stuff is easier to deal with than others. I know for me personally, I smoked for 27 years, and it was just as much, maybe more, the actual physical act of it that I enjoyed. So pills, gums, lollipops, whatever, may not 100% do the trick. They will help with the chemical side of it, the nicotine side of it. But you're going to need to come up with a means of being prepared for not being able to get such items in a scenario where a weather pattern comes in, makes it to where you can't leave your home, makes it to where the store that you might be able to get to can't get the product. Fill in the blank with all the different things that could happen. You're going to have to really think about that. You need to consider what your options are. Some things store a lot better than others. Anything like that, you're not going to want to store super long term. So I don't think it's going to be something that you're going to want to be like, I've got 2 years supply of cigarettes in the back. Okay. Maybe they will store it. I don't know. I've never looked into it. Be a little more realistic as far as longevity? Shelf life. Shelf life is the word we're looking for. I feel like a lot of that stuff would store for a long time. It might not be great when you open it, but I feel that it would probably store pretty long term. I don't know. I'm not a shelf life scientist. But there are little steps that you could do to make sure that you are prepared in case of a short-term disruption in your daily life. Because let's be honest, if there's going to be a disruption in your day-to-day life early, you don't want to add that stress to your mind and your body, or those around you for that matter. Caffeine's a little different. There are caffeine pills and stuff. I can drink one of these full of coffee and roll over and go right to sleep. Caffeine doesn't really affect me the way it affects a lot of other people. Speaking of, I just really like coffee. I like tea. I like not so much sodas anymore, but I do like a nice cup of coffee or tea. Now, yeah, the caffeine, I'm sure it does help a little bit. Caffeine can be a beneficial thing like a lot of other things can be when taken in moderation, or if your body doesn't react to it a specific way. However, my ex-wife, if she tried to go a day without any caffeine, which her vice was Mountain Dew, she got a horrible migraine. Really, really bad. Like, yeah, it wasn't pleasant for her. So if you're already going through a situation where you're trapped at home or trapped someplace where you can't get home, or whatever the scenario may be, insert problem here. That's one thing that you really don't want to have added to your plate. That's what we call pouring gasoline on an already burning fire. So, you know, the goal with being prepared and the goal with having stuff with you and around you to make life as normal as possible in an emergency situation, we call that pouring water on the fire. You are taking away that circumstance's power to disrupt your life as much as you can. I store coffee. There's a lot of ways that you can store coffee. I just have a good amount of the coffee bags, the coffee tea bags, because they're in these little self-sealed things, and then you can put them in something else and seal it up even more, so it stays somewhat shelf stable for a lot longer. Grinds and stuff like that. Whole beans, you could probably do a longer thing, but then you're going to be dependent on being able to grind those. So if all you have is a hand grinder, you're good to go. But if all you have is an electric grinder, you're not good to go. So you really should probably have both. If you don't like coffee and tea and you're used to drinking soda, and that's where you get your caffeine, soda stores somewhat long term, so you might just want to have a couple of emergency 2 liters or maybe an emergency case of your favorite squirreled away somewhere. But these are things that I think kind of everyone gets caught up in the big stuff, you know, I've got to have X, Y, and Z, but the whole time you're partaking in something else that you also will want and could need in the situation. So really think about that. Think about what your vices are, what you as an adult enjoy doing, whether it is nicotine, caffeine. Again, I'm talking about the stuff that is legal United States wide. Let's not turn this into a discussion of, hey, I've got this room in the, nope, none of that. Keep that for your channel. But yeah, coffee, tea, stuff like that. Cigarettes, yep, I don't know how you could store that stuff. I don't think it would be an issue. And again, you don't have to have a pallet full sitting in the corner of your room. I mean, if you do, great, all right. But you might want to have a few extra things squirreled away in a cabinet somewhere just in case, because you're not thinking about it until you are. And then that starts messing with your mind. But now I'm kind of rambling on, so I'm just going to go ahead and get clocked in and go do the stuff. So, take care.